Hello. Okay, so I had to hop on here because I posted a reel and I think it was taken a little bit out of context, which is totally understandable because it's a 40-second clip from an hour-long podcast. And I'm sure it's going on the algorithm and people are seeing it on Instagram that have no idea who I am and have never heard me discuss my views on relationships or, my relationship, anything like that. So I posted a reel saying that I had seen something on Instagram that stuck with me. And it was saying if you're with someone, I'm going to say a woman, but it could be with anybody who is super independent, a way to provide support is to not ask and just do. This has triggered a lot of people in the comment section, mostly men. And I understand why. First of all, I think masculinity has definitely been attacked in our society in the last little bit. So I feel like men are a bit protective of their masculinity and their want to protect and provide, which I totally respect. And I honestly love that about the masculine. I also think there's this like huge pressure on men to read women's minds because we want you to buy us flowers, but we don't tell you to buy us flowers and bullshit like that. What I saw on Instagram about supporting independent women, first of all, a man had made that reel. And the reason why it stuck with me is because this is something that I used to struggle with. So I'm going to go into my personal experience now. I grew up and I was always a very independent person. I've spoken about that on the podcast before. I fell in love when I was probably 16 or 17 for the first time. And I ended up in a relationship with a person who didn't have the ability to take care of me. I ended up being taken advantage of, hurt a lot. And that plus how I was raised, I think created a very independent person. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I didn't hate men, nothing like that. But I just became very used to taking care of myself. And because of that, I had a really hard time asking for what I needed or accepting help. Now, this is something that I wasn't conscious of. I didn't even know this was a part of me that probably needed to be healed. And it was actually Ian who pointed it out to me very early on in our relationship. He found it apparent that it was hard for me to ask for help or accept help. He shared that with me because we have very open communication in our relationship. We always have. And I received it. I started to become more aware. I started to explain to him why maybe I acted like that, why I felt like that. He was very gracious and receptive to this. And he then proceeded to create a very safe, secure, consistent, loving environment for me to fall into who I am today as a wife, who is someone who is very dependent on her husband. And I'm very proud that I'm dependent of my husband. I also am very communicative in what I need. And that is, to me, a very powerful foundation of a relationship. I think you need to be able to depend on each other. I think we take responsibility for each other when we're in a relationship. I don't expect him to read my mind. I communicate and I expect him to listen. He communicates with me. I love taking care of him. Something that honestly was really making me sad as I was reading the comments is that there were a lot of men that were kind of sharing that it's a red flag if you meet a woman who's too independent, cut and run. If you meet a woman that's too independent, they shouldn't have to know how to help or support them. Like, we should always ask for what we need. And it honestly made me really sad because, listen, in an ideal world, yes, I do agree. But something that my dear friend Jordan always says is that humans are imperfect beings and we're not always going to show up at our best. We're not always going to be able to communicate powerfully. We're not always going to be whole and healed and feel safe enough to ask for what we need. And how I look at relationships is that we all, as humans, have opportunities for growth or areas of growth. And those things aren't bad. They're not good. They're just exactly what they are, an opportunity for growth. an area to improve. And I think in a relationship, working on those areas of growth are symbiotic. And by that, I mean, in the independence example, if I'm hyper independent to the point where I have a hard time asking for what I need and I just try to do everything myself because I feel like in the past that is how it has had to be, I have a husband who sees that and who understands why, because we've talked about it, and he wants to help me heal through that. Now, the symbiotic part comes in that as he's helping me heal, I'm obviously learning that I'm now in a safe space, that I've chosen a partner who cares about me, who wants to take care of me, and I can ask him for what I need. So I'm healing, but he is also growing in the process. So he's becoming a better partner. He's becoming more emotionally intuitive. He's becoming more confident as a provider, as a man, as a husband. And there's no winning or losing when you're in a marriage or a relationship and you're trying to grow. If you're helping your partner, you're also helping yourself. So I think a lot of times these days there's this like black and white mentality of like, oh, bro, she's too independent, red flag, run. And people are always evolving. People are hopefully growing and learning and getting better. And it's a gift that you get to do that with someone that you love in a relationship. There's a way to balance these things out. So for me, I'm struggling. Ian knows in this area, he can step up and he can pick up the slack. He can initiate that support and that help that I might not be able to ask for. And in turn, I can now see, wow, this is someone that's doing this because he wants to. This is safe. He wants to take care of me. And now I'm going to be in an environment where I am becoming a more dependent woman because I can trust who I'm with. Effort is necessary, and it's not bad, because by you putting in effort, you are just becoming a better, stronger version of yourself. So I don't know. I just look at everything, not even just in my marriage, in all relationships that I have with my mom, with my dad, with my girlfriends, anything that I'm having to put effort in or learn or understand or change a perspective, that is a gift because I am now becoming a better person. So this is just a long way for me to kind of give context to that video, because it's being taken so far out of context, and it's so the opposite way of how I view relationships, specifically the feminine and the masculine. I love being taken care of. I have a uber masculine husband who leads my family, who I 100% depend on. If you go back to the podcast that I posted last week, I literally said how emotionally dependent I am on my husband and how proud I am of that he is someone I'm able to depend on. There doesn't have to be this negative connotation to women being independent too, because to be honest, as much as I depend on my husband, I also know if I want to go shopping, I can go do so. I don't need to ask him, which is fine if you do, but that's how I am. If I want to go on a hike and he's too tired, I'm still going to go and do what I want to do because I can do it by myself too. Everyone is different, and there's room for different types of relationships and different ways to show up. And I don't know, the comments were making me so sad because there were a lot of men who were getting really, really, really triggered. And I understand why. I really, really do, because there is this new age of women wanting to take care of themselves and I don't need a man. And that is not at all what I believe. I believe that we're stronger together. I love that my husband takes care of me. I don't know. This is already longer than I wanted it to be, but I hope that provides a little bit of context. I hope people can continue to live in love, because that's how relationships grow, with grace, communication, love, acceptance, safety, security. And if someone is being too independent for your liking, it's probably not because they're doing anything against you. Maybe that's just how they've learned to survive in the past. Okay, I love you guys. I hope this wasn't too long. I hope it made sense. And I'll see you guys next week on the podcast.